Senator Hickenlooper. We'll proceed with questions. I'd like to start with Kelly Norris, because this year in Wyoming, we had fires especially devastating in western Wyoming, and the Red Canyon fire, 124,000 acres outside of Thermopolis and moving to the east from there. Last year, the Elk Fire burned about 98,000 acres. Rural communities in the west are feeling the after effects from another devastating wildfire seasons. As more incidents start and suppression resources are spread thin, federal and state agencies need to work together. How do the state, the local, and federal agencies work best together to accomplish incidents such as these wildfires?
Thank you, Chairman Barrasso. The one important part of all of this is we're working at the same time together, not just during the fire, in the fire season, it's all year round. So currently right now, coming up in Casper is our Wyoming Rural Fire Association meeting, and we will have BLM and Forest Service representation with their counties, all working together to talk about next year's fire season. But on the ground, when we are in a fire season, what we know is state capacity and local capacity. We know where our risks are, where the resources are, and we're quickly gathering those, looking at state contracting systems. And then we work with our federal partners quite closely when it comes to as that fire grows. One great example is the Wyoming Aviation Program. We utilize a full-time employee from the Medicine Bow route to help us with our contracting system for the State 2 helicopters. We are able to keep them going 24/7 because of the associated personnel that the Forest Service provides for us.
And can I ask you a follow-up on that? So how do you see the Wildfire Prevention Act helping to streamline authorities between state and federal agencies?
Thank you, Chairman. Great question. We see that as helping the agencies in many different ways, looking at the new technologies and having the state and locals participate in those new technologies that you talked about with the test bed systems, and also having the agencies do exactly what the authorities say that they should be doing. And many of those could be done through Good Neighbor Authority as well.
Well, in terms of the Good Neighbor Authority, I think it's been a very successful tool. Since 2017, with the Forest Service, launched the program. We've contracted over 12,000 acres federal land in the state. Included in my legislation are reporting requirements to track how much work is being done through Good Neighbor Authority. Are there things that are holding us back in terms of using the Wyoming State Forestry Division and Good Neighbor Authority?
Thank you, Chairman Barrasso. Good Neighbor Authority is a huge success in Wyoming. We've seen really great strides going forward with it. One of the great parts of Good Neighbor Authority is we can reinvest that money back into projects on the ground, onto the units, but there's just so much work to be done, and some of that timber revenue just does not provide the same amount of funding to get the work done that we need to do. So one thing that we're looking at when we look at Wyoming and growing, we're going to need to grow capacity and state staffing, and having some consistent, stable funding would really help for short, long, and really long-term planning for us. And so that is one area that we see as a barrier. Beyond that is just planning and coordinating with the Forest Service and making sure that we're following through on the projects we're going to commit to.
So about half the land in Wyoming is owned by the federal government. So land managed under multiple uses required to be managed without impairment of productivity of the land. I've long supported all use of federal land as wildfire mitigation as a tool. Are there big barriers to accomplishing more active management in addition to the money aspect of it?
Thank you, Chairman. I would say when we look at wildfire, we talked about it. We leverage each other's resources. We're working together. We're seeing, hey, you have this, I have that. Let's get this done. There's an emergency on the ground. If we were to look at active management in the same capacity, in that same light, and say, hey, look, we need to leverage your state resources. Let's look at leveraging our other partners in the same way that we're doing it and see it as the emergency that it is. We need more work done on the ground. Yes, we could get a lot more work done on the ground that way.
Mr. Raby, another one of my bills on the agenda today is called the American Voices in Federal Lands Act, because during a previous administration, I was concerned over the public comment process regarding the BLM. My bill aims to ensure that public comments being submitted for review are submitted by U.S. citizens and to prevent the risk of AI commenting on public land rules. We saw last time the number of comments coming in from China, and how that was impacting things. Well, we got all these comments, but they weren't people that were necessarily looking into the best interest of our home states or of our nation. Can you just explain the current safeguards that are in place at the agency to prevent non-U.S. citizens or outside agents from influencing federal land policy in the U.S.?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the question. And candidly, the agency does not have very good safeguards to prevent non-U.S. citizens from providing comments and malicious actors from providing comments that could put critical planning efforts at risk. And certainly your proposed legislation would shore up that gap that we have in that oversight that we need. And so we would welcome that direction and would help us greatly in our planning efforts.
Terrific. Senator